Well, hello there. I had said yesterday's sermon was going to be a little bit different. Turns out it's a lot different because there was nothing online. But we're going to do our best right now to recreate the message so that if you would like to hear it, and we invite you to do so, to listen in on a Father's Day message that basically I'm preaching to myself. As a father now for 20 years, there are certainly some things that I have learned, but more than that, there are some things that I need to continue to relearn. And whether or not you are a father or a mother, a parent of any kind, you likely have people in your life who look up to you, and people in your life that you in some ways mentor or have authority over. And so I would hazard a guess that you could probably also learn some of the things or relearn some of the things that I know that I need to preach to myself. So, first and foremost, when I go to the scriptures, there are two passages that are very clearly spoken to fathers in Paul's letter to the Colossians and in Paul's letter to the Ephesians. And so I'd invite you right now to hear along with me from these passages. Paul says to the Colossians, "Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord." Now, right out of the gate, I know this about myself. I can be well-meaning and yet still cause problems. The main reason for this is that so often my own insecurities and anxieties and unmet needs, my desires get in the way. I mean, there are lots of times where something my kid has done, I've got 3 of them, again, 20-year-old Brennan, almost 18-year-old Aiden, and 15-year-old Bria. There are times when I want something for them, but it does not come out that way. I think anyone who is a parent, anyone who looks at children or the next generation or others, they want the best for them. They absolutely want good things for them. And yet I know when I am acting as a parent, so many times my own anxieties, frustrations, fears get in the way. I share these various memes with my daughter Bria all the time. The whole idea that fathers, in many ways, enjoy pestering their daughters, and the back and forth that comes with that. I've been told Bria actually by her that she doesn't even bother to read these or watch these memes, these videos, but I keep sending them to her anyway. There are lots of times where I want something for my kids, like I want us to show up on time to an event. I want to be there to show honor and respect to the people that have invited us to something. And yet maybe we're running a little bit behind. And so what happens in me? Well, I'm sitting there in the car and I am anxious and frustrated, and all of a sudden, my hand's on the steering wheel, my heart is pumping, my anxiety and frustrations are overtaking, and by the time someone shows up at the car ready to go, I'm saying things that are not helpful or not encouraging. I get in the way. I want the best for them. Or I want them to develop as strong and confident kids and adults. I want them to grow up to be able to do things, and yet when they don't do things, I get afraid that that's a sign that things are not going to go well for them. My own anxieties, my own frustrations get in the way of being the kind of father that I know and I want to be. Even more than that, my own upbringing gets in the way. Because my starting place, as Paul said there in Ephesians needs to be the Lord. And yet so often my starting place is my own anxieties, my own frustrations. My starting place is not what God has for us and for me, but maybe what happened in my own life, my own upbringing, my own parents who were trying to do their best, my own ways of liking or disliking things, my own particular disposition. Now, there are things that I was raised in that are good, but maybe not the best. You know, you've probably heard it said, right? To be 5 minutes early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is unacceptable. Well, that's fine, but it's not in here, right? That's not necessarily God's instruction to us, and yet there are so many ways that we can get brought up and taught certain things that then we layer in to our teaching of our kids. I know I do it for myself, that gets in the way. There are dispositions that I have. Take, for instance, music. I mean, I always like to think that I have a very wide variety of musical tastes. There's a lot of music that I like, and yet I still find myself hearing something that my kids are listening to, and I think, you know, back when I was growing up, we had real music, and it sounded like U2. And I know if you're listening, if you're overhearing this, you might even be thinking to yourself, U2, aren't they new? But it's not helpful for me to get my own likes and my own preferences in the way of helping out and building up my kids or any other kids around me. And yet so often what I like or what I don't like gets in the way of doing that. There is very little actual instruction in the scriptures to be a good father or a good mother, a good parent overall. But when I turn to the scriptures, I often find myself going to three different places. Three different places where God the Father interacts with God the Son that gives me a basis for how I know that I need to be a good father. So if my starting place is the Lord, the three passages that I need to go to are actually all in the Gospel of Luke. The first one is right from the beginning. Let me set it up for you. It goes like this. Jesus has done absolutely nothing of real substance in his earthly ministry. He's about 30 years old or so and makes his way to the Jordan River, where his cousin, John the Baptist, has been conducting his ministry, calling the community at large to repent, to turn towards the Lord. He's inviting them to be baptized, to renew their commitment to follow God, and pointing them to the one who would come after him, Jesus. Jesus, of course, shows up and desires to be baptized by John. There's a back and forth about whether John is even in a position to be able to do this, and Jesus says, don't worry about it, just baptize me. And then we have this description. John chapter 3, verse 22 says, and the Holy Spirit descended on him, him being Jesus, in bodily form like a dove, and a voice came from heaven, you are my son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased. My first duty is to affirm. I'm always struck by this. I've shared this in sermons many times before. But again, Jesus, up until this moment in time, in Luke's gospel, has done nothing of note or of substance. He was born, and then we have a decade or more of nothing. We have this one scene where he kind of ducks out on his parents as they are heading back home, he stays in Jerusalem, and he ends up in a synagogue, and he's teaching because he needs to be about his Father's business. And the best we can get from that is that the teachers of the law, the scribes, the Pharisees, are impressed by what he says. And then nothing. 10, 20 more years of nothing until this moment. And God the Father looks at God the Son, Jesus Christ, and in this moment he says, "You are my Son. I am well pleased with you." Even though there is basically nothing that Jesus has done. What happens next, of course, in Jesus' story is he goes off into the wilderness where he is tempted for 40 days. He's without food. He is given all of these options. The enemy says, if you just follow my path, I can give you all the kingdoms of the world. I will set you up with so much. You will be just a rock star. And yet, because of the affirming words from God the Father, Jesus is able to say no to all those temptations and is able to continue in the ministry and the mission that God the Father has for him. God the Father doesn't begin, of course, in the same place that I often do with my kids. I think I have a gift. One of the gifts I have is to be able to see the potential in people and in things. The curse of this gift, though, is that I focus so much on the gap between what could be and what is. And I so often pay attention to what is instead of what could be. Your room could be so much cleaner. You need to clean your room. God the Father, in these moments when he affirms his Son, is almost speaking into him something that might not exist yet. His words of affirmation build up and allow Jesus to live into the truth of who he already was, but may not have been manifest yet. As a parent, I have discovered, through much error, the value, instead of pointing at what isn't, to lead and to affirm and encourage to what could be. Now, when some people hear the words affirm, they can go a whole bunch of different ways. But this idea of affirmation goes all the way back to the very beginning. When God creates the world, on each and every day at the close of business, he says, "It is good. It is good. It is good. It is good." He gets to the sixth day when humanity is created, and God says, "It is very good." God's first words about humanity is, "It is very good." It's not done, it's not finished, but it's good. I know for me, my first duty is to affirm. Just as God did with humanity writ large, just as God did with creation, just as God did with Jesus, was to affirm, "This is my Son. You are my beloved. I am well pleased with you." The second place that I go to is not too much further. There's another time where Jesus is spoken to by God. He has gathered, Jesus has gone up onto a hillside, up onto a mountain with his besties. Peter, James, and John, the ones who continue to be at these key moments in Jesus' life and ministry when maybe the rest are kind of off doing something else. These three show up. So Jesus takes them up onto this hillside, and it's in these moments that he is absolutely transfigured. He glows in such a profound way that Peter does not have words. His best thing is he is stunned by what he experiences, and he blurts out this idea about building houses so they can stay there for a long time. But beside Jesus, you have Moses and Elijah who show up, and in these moments, these words are said. It says, a voice came from the cloud saying, "This is my son whom I have chosen. Listen to him." My first duty is to affirm. My second duty is to choose. Choosing my children is a step beyond just affirming them. And to choose anything is to say no to so many other things, right? To choose time with my children means to choose not to spend time on something else. Now, I know this can go very, very far. This can go to extremes that many of us as parents have found ourselves in, where we're running from one event to another, where we never have time for ourselves. Even in the choosing of our children is also the need to choose for our children, to put guardrails and barriers to enable them to grow in healthy ways. To choose to prepare what is necessary for my children also means to say no to certain things. I'm going to provide them food. I'm not going to provide them unlimited candy and ice cream and potato chips. I never know whether that chime is heard on the feed or not. But to choose for my child is to set aside other things that may draw my attention. It's not at the expense of myself, of my own health and growth, but it is for the sake of my children. It's to prioritize their well-being. There are so many ways that I can choose to spend my time. And yet, when I choose to spend it with my children or for my children, that gives them a sense of their own value, their own abilities, and it is absolutely necessary. It's not just an accident that I have ended up with these children. I know that I need to over and over and over again choose to be their father. To choose to act in a way that gives them an example. To choose to act in a way that acknowledges their deep value. To demonstrate for them that they are loved. If my first duty to my children is to affirm them, my second duty is to choose them. And my third, well, Jesus is preaching and teaching. And he's talking about our fears and anxieties and the deep needs that we have. And in Luke 11, he says this: "If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give the Holy Spirit to those who ask him?" The Holy Spirit, of course, is the life-giving presence of God to empower us to do more than we ever could ask or imagine. And God, in self-giving gift, pours himself out into Jesus. And in the same way, Jesus pours himself out into us through the Holy Spirit, empowering us with gifts and talents and abilities and his very own presence to do so much more than we could ever ask or imagine. In the same way, God does that for our children and invites us to do the same. We want to give. It is in our very nature to give, even to sacrifice. And my third duty is to give to my children and to give for my children, to give of myself. Now, there are basic needs that it is imperative as a parent for me to provide: food and shelter and comfort. There are needs that each and every one of us, if we are going to be successful and healthy, if we are going to succeed in this life, we all need to be seen. We all need to know that there is someone looking at us and looking for us and paying attention to us. We need to be soothed. There are times in our lives where we're hurting or fearful or anxious. And to be able to provide an opportunity to soothe them, to be safe and secure, to know that our needs are met, and that we don't have to be afraid. But there are needs beyond that. And these needs can't just be met by a mom. As a father, it is imperative for me to step into that same role and to try and meet these needs as best that I can. Not just the basics, but the needs of our very souls. And of course, beyond the needs is to set an example to help set the trajectory of my children. In the gift of myself, the gift of not just my words, but my actions, I set an example. I set for them a legacy. To give the gift of a legacy is to give the gift of myself. Not necessarily just to enforce rules, but to offer up an example of what it looks like to live a life following after Jesus, to live a life that is full, to live a life that is abundant, to live a life that is worthy of following after. As I come to the close of this, I again preach to myself my need to affirm my children and all children. My need, not just to affirm, but also to choose my children and all of our children. And my need to give. My need, my duty to give of myself, to offer up an example. And so I leave this message with a call to myself, and if you're listening, an invitation to you as well. What one breadcrumb might you be able to lay down today that leads your children of biology or your children of choice, that leads them back to their true heavenly Father? I invite you to join with me now in this closing prayer. Our good and gracious Father, who has given us so many gifts, we ask that by and through your Spirit, that you would empower us to be the kind of parents who affirm, choose, who give of ourselves in the same way that you have given of yourself. We ask this in the matchless name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, who invited us to pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.